Revealed. An incredible millionaire's life-changing journey as a mute boy discovers a loving dad. Jacob had always been a fighter. At just 12 years old, he faced life's challenges with a heart that burned bright despite the silence that surrounded him. Born mute, he communicated with vibrant bursts of color on canvas. Each stroke of his brush breathed life into his unspoken dreams, each painting a piece of his soul splashed against the drab walls of his modest home in the Midwestern town of Maplewood. Raised by his single mother, a relentless worker juggling multiple jobs, Jacob's life was wrapped in the warmth of her struggle and love. Yet deep within, he carried an ache for the father he had never known, a shadow in his heart that he yearned to uncover. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues that mirrored Jacob's art, he found himself at an art exhibit showcasing local talent. The excitement of the crowd surrounded him, a cacophony of chatter and laughter. But amid that noise, his eyes locked onto a familiar face, a man praising a piece adorned with golden strokes. Jacob's stomach clenched. Could it be? The man funding this lavish exhibition was none other than Mark, his estranged father. He felt a mix of dread and thrill, the idea that the gilded figure before him could be the answer to his longing. Jacob took a breath, steeling himself. He approached Mark, but the businessman's eyes remained cold, his interest focused on the recognition and applause around him, not on the boy standing before him. Just a boy, just a painter. Dad, he willed the word to escape, but silence wrapped around him, tight as a vice. Mark glanced his way, then returned to the art, unimpressed. In that moment, Jacob felt the weight of unworthiness fill the air like a lead balloon. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into weeks. Understanding Mark's world of wealth and status, Jacob threw himself into art, painting the dreams he thought could impress his father. But each frame, each vibrant scene left him feeling hollow and disconnected. Mark, who seemed caught up in the shiny surface of success, struggled to see the work of love behind every brushstroke. Jacob found himself lost between the search for acceptance from a father who barely recognized him and the hollow ache that gnawed at his insides. Then, just when the tension between them seemed ready to snap, the town of Maplewood faced a crisis. A factory closure loomed, threatening to take away everything that held the community together. Jacob and Mark were thrust into a situation neither of them had anticipated, forcing them to confront their emotional barriers and the truth about what family really means. As Jacob poured his feelings into a mural that blossomed with vivid hues of hope, he challenged the very foundation of Mark's silent ambition. Amid the summer storms that raged outside, Jacob's heart swelled with an uncertain hope. Would he find the connection he longed for? As thick raindrops fell, mixing with tears, he questioned if love could truly break through the boundaries of their worlds. With every stroke of his brush, he asked, could they at last bridge the vast chasm that wealth and ambition had carved between them? The days that followed felt like a whirlwind. Jacob stood before the towering mural. He had started a massive canvas stretching across the once dull wall of the community center. Each color danced together, creating scenes of unity and resilience. The vibrant pigments he chose were not only a reflection of his hope, but also a mirror to the heart of Maplewood, a town clinging to hope amid uncertainty. As he painted, he felt the pressure of every brushstroke. A nearby mural of workers standing united reminded him of his mother, tirelessly supporting their little family. He envisioned the faces of his neighbors, people he'd seen struggle and laugh through thick and thin. And there, in the midst of colors swirling together, he imagined the figure of his father, Mark, standing shoulder to shoulder with them. Yet, whenever he glanced around, hoping Mark would appear, disappointment tightened Jacob's chest. The mural began as a hopeful symbol but slowly turned into a reminder of his loneliness. The very father he hoped to impress had been so distant, leaving Jacob questioning why a connection felt so impossible. Meanwhile, the looming factory closure darkened the town like the storm clouds overhead. One afternoon, a rumble of thunder brought rain pounding against the windows of the center. The storm matched the chaos of Jacob's heart as he took a step back, taking in his work. Bright hues of strokes met dark, brooding shadows. The juxtaposition felt right. It was a struggle, not just between light and dark but also between a father and his son, searching for a bond amidst a swirling storm of emotions and circumstances. That's when he noticed a figure enter the doorway, silhouetted against the downpour, a soaked Mark, shaking off droplets like a dog after a swim. Jacob froze, paintbrush hovering in midair. Mark stood surveying the mural, his face unreadable. At that moment, Jacob felt everything inside him tighten. Hope, fear, longing, uncertainty. What would his father think? Would he see past the colors and recognize the story woven into each stroke? Mark edged closer, his brow furrowed as if he were struggling to decipher a foreign language. Jacob watched him scrutinize the mural as it unveiled a tale he'd never expressed in words: his struggles, his dreams, the love he carried for a father he had yearned for. He took in every brushstroke and color, from the fiery reds to the calming blues. "What do you think?" Jacob wanted to shout, his voice echoing in his mind, but silence once again wrapped around him. Instead, he found solace in the rush of the rain, nature's way of rearranging chaos. For a fleeting moment, Jacob thought he saw something flicker in Marcus' eyes. A hint of recognition, maybe even admiration. As the older man stepped back, shaking his head in disbelief, Jacob felt a glimmer of hope spring to life inside him. But just as quickly, Marcus' expression hardened again. Jacob's heart sank. Would he really pull away now, just as the bond seemed to flicker into existence? And then, in a voice heavy with unspent emotion, Mark whispered, "Why didn't you ever tell me?" Jacob's heart raced at the words that dropped between them like rain on parched soil. The question hung heavy in the charged air, thirsty for response. But could he find a way to break the silence and reveal the depths of his hurt? Could they break down the walls that had long kept them apart? As the storm raged on, both father and son stood surrounded by a world of color and emotion. Jacob took a deep breath, feeling as if this moment could shift everything. The wind howled, the rain poured, and for the first time, Jacob felt like he held the power to reach his father. Would he dare to speak now, to break the silence and share his truth? Or would he let this moment slip away, like so many others before? The rain drummed relentlessly against the window, drowning out the sound of Jacob's racing heartbeat. What didn't I tell him? That question echoed in his brain, twisting tightly around his thoughts, squeezing the air from his lungs. He wrestled with the idea of opening the floodgates of his emotions. Words flowed like paint on the easel, but fear held him back. "Tell you what?" Jacob finally managed to ask, his voice barely rising above the storm outside. The words tumbled from his lips, and he felt the weight of vulnerability settle upon his shoulders. Without the barriers of silence, he feared where this conversation might lead. Mark shifted his weight, the discomfort palpable. Jacob could see the turmoil painting itself across his father's face. "I didn't know, I just didn't see it," Mark replied, his words tinged with regret. "You always seemed so... okay. I didn't realize you were struggling." Jacob's heart raced. The shadows that had hung between them for so long were now shifting. "What do you mean?" he pressed, needing to know how his father truly viewed him. "Did you really think I didn't want to reach out? That I didn't need you?" Mark's gaze dropped to the floor, the droplets from his sodden clothes pooling at his feet. "I thought being away was for the best. I thought," his voice cracked. "I thought I was protecting you by keeping my distance." Protecting? The word struck Jacob like lightning. Protecting me from what? His pain bubbled over into frustration, and anger simmered just beneath the surface. "You think I wanted you to disappear? I needed you, Dad. I needed you to show me. I wanted to share my pain and my dreams, to tell you about this mural." Looking up, Mark's eyes glistened with unshed tears. The realization struck Jacob hard. This man who had once seemed so infallible was crumbling before him. Mark's vulnerability sent a surge of emotion through Jacob, tearing down the walls of resentment he had built. "I didn't know how to reach you either," Mark confessed, his voice trembling. "All this time I thought silence was the best way, that you wouldn't miss me if I stayed away." The raw honesty in his words drew Jacob closer, pulling at the threads of their entangled lives. As the rain battered the window, Jacob could feel the storm of emotions coursing between them like a tidal wave. "Dad, I painted this mural for us," Jacob whispered, the urgency of the moment tightening his chest. "Every color is a piece of my heart. I wanted you to see, to understand." He picked up his brush again, gesturing to the vibrant swirls of color and shadows. There was a flicker of hope in Mark's eyes, and a slow understanding began to dawn. The colors on the wall were more than just paint. They were a lifeline thrown into the turbulent sea of their relationship. "I want to hear it, son," Mark said, stepping forward. "Tell me everything." The weight of those words sent a rush of relief through Jacob. He took a deep breath, summoning the courage he had mustered in those long months of painting alone. "I felt so alone," Jacob began, his voice stronger now. "I would look at those walls, each stroke a reminder of what I needed from you, a father who cared." And as the rain began to ease, a delicate silence enveloped the room, where understanding began to bud. Just as Jacob's words flowed freely, sharing fragments of his life, he could see a shift happening in Mark. The barriers were crumbling, the silence breaking. And yet, in that moment, something flickered in Jacob's mind. What if revealing the truth was only the first step? Could they really bridge the gap once and for all? With that thought, Jacob prepared to lay bare the deepest wounds. He carried the truth about his dreams and the fear of loss. Would his father be ready to embrace it? Now, the most difficult part awaited him. Would the colors of their past paint a brighter future? Or would the storm brew once more? Jacob took a shaky breath, feeling the weight of everything he hadn't said pressing down on him. The colors on the mural danced in the fading light, a kaleidoscope of the emotions he had bottled up for too long. With a flick of his brush, he left a streak of bright orange, a burst of hope pushing against the shadows of doubt. "Dad," he began, his voice trembling but resolute, "I've been afraid. Afraid of reaching out, afraid of being hurt again. Every time I picked up that brush, I felt like I was trying to tell you something that I couldn't say out loud." Mark leaned in, his eyes glowing with a mixture of regret and understanding. "I understand more than you know, Jacob," he said softly. "I was so lost in my own world that I failed to see yours. But I want to know, really know." The sincerity in his father's voice urged Jacob forward. "I want to be an artist, Dad. I've dreamed of it since I was a kid." But the words caught in his throat, a mixture of fear and vulnerability. "But I didn't know if I was good enough. I didn't know if you would support me." Mark seemed to deflate a little at that. "You are good enough, son. You always have been. I should have told you that sooner." Jacob closed his eyes, overwhelmed by the tidal wave of relief. "Sometimes I felt like I was painting in a void. Like if I didn't share it, the world wouldn't see me at all." Mark lifted his hand, hesitant at first, but then he placed it on Jacob's shoulder. "You're so much more than the paint on that wall. You've got a voice louder than you realize." Jacob opened his eyes again, the colors in the mural swirling together, forming shapes of memories he hadn't even recognized he was painting. "I painted how I felt lost, afraid, angry. And when I finally let go, it felt like I was bursting with everything I'd been hiding." "Then why stop? Don't hide anymore." Mark's voice was firm, a father's insistence layered with love. Jacob's heart swelled as he soaked in those words. It was a shift he hadn't fully anticipated. "But what if I fail?" "Failure is just a step towards finding out what works," Mark replied, leaning closer. "You have to embrace it." Moments rolled by, silent and sacred. The storm outside thundered again, but inside, the tension of years began to lift like fog in the sun. Jacob glanced at his father, feeling as if a bridge was slowly forming between them, each word strengthening the connection. This wasn't just a conversation. It was a revelation for both of them. Dad, you don't really know why I felt so lost, do you? Jacob finally asked, his voice shaking slightly. Mark shook his head, curiosity flickering in his eyes. No, I don't, but I want to understand. Please share it all with me. With a deep breath, Jacob braced himself to delve into the darkest corners of his heart. The fears he had never vocalized swirled in his mind: self-doubt, feelings of abandonment, and the almost paralyzing fear of disappointing his father for not being who he thought he should be. I was scared of losing you, Jacob confessed. I watched you walk away and felt like I was losing a part of myself. And when you were gone, it became harder to believe that you would be back. Mark's expression fell into a grave concern. I had no idea, but you're here now, Jacob pressed on, pushing through the raw vulnerability. And that's what I need. To know that I can be honest and that you'll stay. The storm outside dimmed, but the emotions between them surged. Would this moment solidify everything they were striving for, or would Jacob's fears shatter this fragile connection? Marcus' eyes softened. I'm here, Jacob. I won't go anywhere. The potential for healing hung in the air, but uncertainty loomed just out of reach. Would they seize this moment to forge a new legacy together? As Mark leaned in closer, asking more about the mural and its symbols, Jacob felt a spark of hope. But lurking in the back of his mind was that haunting question. What if he had not been the only one hiding something? With a sudden shift, the conversation was about to dive deeper than he could have ever expected. Jacob's heart raced as he prepared to plunge into deeper waters of conversation. The air was thick with potential, as if the weight of their unspoken truths hung like the colors on the mural, vibrant yet unresolved. Dad, he started slowly, unsure if he should bear the weight of more than his own fears. What about you? What have you been hiding? The question hung in the air, fragile yet unyielding. Mark shifted slightly, the warmth of their moment now mingling with a chill of apprehension. Me? He whispered, as if the idea surprised him. I've tried to keep my regrets to myself. Regrets? Jacob prompted, his voice gentle but insistent. What do you regret? Mark exhaled deeply and reached for a canvas they both had overlooked. It was half covered in shadow, perhaps a reflection of the life he had painted for himself. I regret how I let my own fears drive me away from you, from us. I thought I was protecting you by putting my head down and working hard. Jacob's gaze followed his father's, landing on the unfinished pieces lurking in the dark. But it made me feel abandoned. I never meant for that to happen. Mark's voice cracked, a raw fissure exposing deep vulnerability. I thought showing you how to work hard would be enough, but I see now that I didn't show you how to be brave. Bravery isn't just in work. It's in connection, too. I was blind. That's why I felt like I couldn't talk to you. Jacob admitted, memories flooding back, hours spent in silence, waiting for Mark to notice his struggle. I just wanted you to see me, Dad. Mark's expression turned pained, but understanding was also there. I thought if I built a wall around work, I would protect you. I didn't realize I was building it around our relationship instead. Jacob watched as his dad wrestled with the weight of those words. The air crackled with the electricity of haunting realizations. In that moment, they were no longer just father and son navigating misunderstandings. They were two souls, both searching for connection and battling their own fears. I don't want to feel lost anymore, Jacob said softly, his fingers tracing along the colors of the mural. I want our relationship to grow. I want us to be brave together, not apart. Mark's eyes sparkled with a hint of moisture. Then let us brave this together. Let us learn more about one another. Each brushstroke, each conversation let us build something new. And as the storm outside ebbed, the warmth between them slowly filled the void of years gone by. Jacob felt a tide of hope wash over him, igniting a flame of courage to explore these fresh paths together. But there was still something unspoken, a heaviness that lingered in the back of his mind, like the ominous clouds that had once darkened their home. What if this wasn't just about us, though? Jacob asked hesitantly. What if there's more to unravel? What if there are things beyond our fears that we need to confront together? Mark looked into Jacob's eyes, the recognition dawning on him. Then let us find out. Let us discover whatever else has been buried. With their hearts trembling with the weight of their newly forged resolve, they knew there was a deeper journey awaiting them, one that would test their courage and challenge everything they thought they understood about being a family. And so, they stood before the mural, faces turned towards the canvas of their lives, ready to paint anew. But just as they took a breath to dive deeper into the canvas of their shared past, a loud crash echoed from the back of the house, demanding their attention and shaking the very foundations they had begun to rebuild. What was that? Jacob asked, his pulse quickening. Mark's brow furrowed with concern as they exchanged a worried glance. Some truths were about to emerge, and the fabric of their new connection might be about to unravel. Mark's heart raced as he processed the sudden noise. Jacob's eyes darted toward the hallway, a mix of anxiety and curiosity flooding his features. The crash had come from the back room, a space they often neglected, filled with dust and memories of days gone by. Let us check it out, Mark said, trying to inject firmness into his voice. But inside he felt the weight of dread. This wasn't just an interruption. It felt like an omen. They stepped cautiously toward the doorway, the floorboards creaking underfoot. Each step amplified the pounding in their chests. Jacob took the lead, and as they approached the door, he shot a glance back at his father. Do you think it's something bad? Mark hesitated, considering the years of silence that stretched between them, years filled with half-truths and unspoken fears. It might be, but we need to face it together. He pushed the door open, revealing the dim light of the back room filtering through broken blinds. They both paused, taking in the scene. The small table had tipped over, scattering old papers and a few forgotten keepsakes that had collected dust over time. What caused this? Jacob breathed out, stepping inside. His fingers brushed against a picture frame that lay face down. The glass cracked. Mark joined him, his eyes locking onto the image, a photo of the two of them from years back, a moment frozen in time before the walls had closed in around them. I'll never understand how I let things get this way, he murmured, a deep ache settling in his chest as they sifted through the remains of the table. Clues began to surface. Jacob picked up an old letter, its edges frayed. He unfolded it, squinting at the faded lettering, and suddenly, his breath caught in his throat. Dad, this is from Grandma. Mark took a step closer, his heartbeat intensifying. What does it say? Jacob's voice shook as he read aloud, revealing a glimpse of Grandma's thoughts, her struggles, her fears about Marcus' choices, and how much she wanted their family to reconnect. She was trying to reach out, Dad. She wanted us to be a family again. Mark swallowed hard, the weight of decades bearing down on him. I didn't think I was worthy of reaching out to her or you. Jacob bit his lip, holding back emotions that threatened to spill over. But this proves we were all lost in our own ways, Dad. Maybe it's time to fix that, to stop hiding from our truths. Mark nodded slowly, the gravity of the revelation settling over them like a thick fog. You're right. We need to confront all of this. If we aim to be brave with each other, we can't ignore the past any longer. As Jacob placed the letter down, a noise echoed from the shadows behind the door, a soft whimper. Their hearts sank, instincts taking over. A small bundle of fur emerged, a puppy with big, pleading eyes. It looked lost, hungry, and scared. Where did you come from? Jacob knelt down, reaching out gently. The puppy wagged its tail, inching closer as if sensing the breeding warmth of newfound connection. Mark watched with a pang of recognition, seeing how Jacob's eyes lit up with compassion. Perhaps she's also been waiting for a connection. Jacob chuckled, lifting the puppy into his arms. Can we keep her, Dad? Mark smiled for the first time that evening, the tension lifting just enough to let a glimmer of hope shine through. I think we can make room for one more in our lives. As they turned to leave the room, Jacob cradling the puppy, he felt a sudden warmth surge within him, a sign that their journey was far from over. But perhaps they were finally headed in the right direction. But as they stepped back into the heart of the house, Jacob caught sight of the mural once more. The colors seemed richer now, infused with their shared resolve. Yet, beneath that reassuring vibrancy, shadows still lurked, hinting at unresolved truths and challenges lying ahead. Dad, Jacob asked, pausing, what else do we need to confront? What other mysteries have been left in the shadows? Mark's expression shifted, a somber realization dawning. There's still so much we don't know and we can't turn away from it now. It's time to unravel everything. With their hearts aligned and a new member of the family nestled close, they felt deep within that the real challenge was just beginning, and the echoes of the past still had stories to tell. Mark inhaled deeply and exchanged a glance with Jacob. The puppy's warmth radiated against Jacob's chest, encapsulating the feeling of connection they both longed for. Yet, the shadows of uncertainty still loomed heavy over them. Maybe we should look at the mural, Jacob suggested, the hesitant tone in his voice betraying his playful demeanor. They walked towards it, the walls speaking secrets they had never bothered to listen to. Each brushstroke, vibrant yet haunting, was a remnant of familial stories both joyous and painful. Every color has a story, Mark remarked, his eyes tracing the lines. We've painted over a lot of them with silence. Jacob nodded, a thoughtful frown creasing his brow. This one here, he pointed, it's darker than the rest. Feels like it stands out for a reason. Mark stepped closer. The dark canvas contrasted sharply with the surrounding hues. That part of our lives, it's been hidden, no one wants to look there. Maybe it's time we do, Jacob said, his voice firmer this time, pushing away the familiar dread. The more we shy away, the heavier it gets. The crack from Grandma's letter, it opened something. The weight of those words hung between them, the potential for confrontation both invigorating and terrifying. Mark knew it was the fear that bred silence, the fear of the past ripping them apart. As if on cue, the puppy barked softly, reminding them of the bond they'd just begun to forge. All right, Mark said, his resolve growing. Let us face what's behind that dark section. But we do it together. Taking a step back, they examined the mural again, now focused on the shadowy segment. Jacob's small hand reached out to touch the wall. It felt cold, the paint cracked beneath his fingers. It's like it's begging us to learn about it. Mark approached, placing his hand over Jacob's. Every stroke has a story. We just have to decipher them. Jacob's voice trembled, excitement laced with apprehension. What if it reveals something we can't handle? Mark hesitated, allowing that fear to settle inside for a moment. Nothing can be worse than staying silent, he replied succinctly. Let us find out together. As they began to peel back parts of the mural that had long been covered up, strange patterns and phrases emerged, each layer revealing hidden moments of their family's history. Mark felt the air thick with layers of despair and joy mingling together. Suddenly, Jacob gasped, pulling further on a section that revealed a series of photographs drawn on the wall. Each represented a moment in time, each figure poignantly significant yet shrouded in mystery. Dad, look, this one, it's Grandma, but with someone I don't know. Mark's breath caught as he leaned in closer. The figure next to Grandma bore an uncanny resemblance to himself, a younger version, yet distinctly familiar. How did that get here? A sense of urgency washed over Jacob. What if this is our chance to understand? Who is this person? Mark felt a knot form in his stomach. I think it's someone from the part of my life I've been too ashamed to revisit. Jacob's eyes widened with panic and curiosity, searching his father's face for answers. What happens if we dig deeper? What if it unlocks things we aren't ready to face? Mark took a deep breath, studying the images that now captivated their attention. There was something at stake here, something vital to their story. We may just discover that some shadows are meant to be brought into the light. With the puppy tugging playfully at the hem of Jacob's shirt, they stood together at the edge of their shared journey, hearts racing with apprehension and anticipation. But the door to that understanding was still closed, waiting for a gentle push to open once more. Are you ready for what's next? Mark asked, locking eyes with Jacob, both poised on the brink of a revelation that could change everything. The air buzzed around them with anticipation. What other connections would they unravel? What other truths lingered in the corners of their lives? The moment hung heavy, a breath caught between the desire for discovery and the fear of what lay beneath. Jacob's small hand trembled against the wall. "Dad, we have to know," he urged, determination shining in his young eyes. Mark felt the weight of that gaze, the innocence and hope wrapped around them like an embrace. This was a leap of faith. "Okay, let us do it," Mark replied, swallowing hard. He gently nudged Jacob aside, curiosity driving him to uncover another layer of the mural. He gripped the edge of the peeling paint and tugged. It came away like a faded memory, revealing more photographs underneath other moments, other faces. Jacob leaned in, captivated. "Look at all of them. Who are they?" The figures sprang to life from the canvas, each with stories etched in every shadow. There was Grandma again, younger, laughing with an unfamiliar man whose face felt scattered through Marcus' own features. It was as if time had folded in on itself, leaving behind whispers of a family woven together yet torn apart. Mark rubbed his temples, a headache forming as the knots of his past twisted tighter. "I don't know who he is, Jacob, but I think he might have meant a lot to her." His chest tightened, the pain of forgotten memories clawing at him. "But why don't we know?" Jacob asked, searching his father's face. "Was he bad?" "I don't think so, it's more complicated than that," Mark confessed, his voice a rasp. "Sometimes, families find ways to protect each other, but it doesn't always work." Jacob studied every image, processing emotions far beyond his years. "Maybe we can ask Grandma?" Mark's heart sank at the thought. Memories of blurred conversations, cautious glances, and evaded questions quaked within him. He didn't want to drag Jacob into something meant to remain buried. But then again, what if this journey brought them closer? The thought flickered, igniting sparks of hope that danced unsteadily against the shadows. "Let us flip through these," Mark suggested, resolving to confront the truths awaiting them. He began peeling back yet another layer, revealing darker tones intertwined with vibrant splashes of color. Every shade tells a tale. A massive section peeled away, and before them lay a number of names scrawled in messy handwriting, family names, some familiar, some alien. One stood out, stark against the others: Jenkins. "Who's Jenkins?" Jacob asked, tilting his head, a glimmer of confusion crossing his face. "I don't know, buddy." The name stirred something in him, fragments echoing in his mind. "But maybe we should try to find out." Before he could finish, the puppy bounded up, barking excitedly, drawing their attention away. Jacob chuckled and knelt to scratch behind its ears, the tension melting away momentarily. "What if we take pictures?" Jacob suggested with bright enthusiasm. "We can show Grandma." Mark smiled at the idea. "That's a great plan. Let us collect everything we can. We're not alone in this." As they gathered the remnants, something shifted. The air felt lighter, infused with new purpose, hopes replacing trepidation. Mark could already feel the story unfolding, like pages turning slowly in a book. But despite the warmth spreading through the room, unease still lingered in the back of his mind. Pieces still felt missing. "Jacob," he said, his heart racing, "what if we find out things that change how we see Grandma?" Jacob met his gaze with unwavering confidence. "We won't know until we try, and we'll figure it out together." Mark nodded, feeling something shift inside, a harsh grip loosening just a bit. "All right, just know, no matter what we uncover, she loves us." I think that's what matters most. But as they continued to peel back layers of history, one thing remained clear. Their next steps could unveil truths they were not yet ready to embrace. The urgency hung in the air again, and a question loomed in Mark's mind. Would it only bring them together or drive a wedge deeper into family ties? The mural awaited them, every revelation a test of their bond. What hidden truths still lingered beneath the surface? What was the true story of the Jenkins? Mark took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of his son beside him. They had stumbled onto something big. The words scrawled on the wall, the faces hidden beneath layers of paint, every piece of this puzzle thrummed with potential answers. But what kind of answers? Would they be comforting or unsettling? "Come on, let us keep going," he said, feigning a confidence he was far from feeling. Jacob was buzzing with anticipation, his fingers brushing against the photographs, eyes darting from one image to another. "Look at this one, Dad," Jacob exclaimed, pointing at a photo of a young girl with curly hair and a huge smile. "She looks so happy. Do you think she S.A. Jenkins?" "Maybe," Mark replied, his voice thick as he glanced over the picture. The girl's smile tugged at his heart in ways he couldn't fully understand. It felt like a connection to a side of family he never knew. "What about this one?" Jacob flipped over another section, revealing a worn photo of a family gathered in front of what looked like an old outdoor party. Everyone was laughing, the sun glinting off their glasses. Mark felt a pang of longing at the sight. He wished he had been part of such moments, wished he had more memories of his own childhood full of joy and laughter. Suddenly, something caught his eye. "A name." "Look here, Jacob," Mark pointed. "This one says Lila Jenkins. I've heard that name before." "Who is she?" Jacob asked, his curiosity bubbling. "She might have been a sister or even a cousin." Mark's voice trailed off as he racked his brain. The name seemed like a chorus in his memory, echoing faintly, but always just out of reach. "We have to find her," Jacob said, the urgency in his voice mirroring Mark's own. Mark chuckled, but the laughter didn't quite reach his heart. "You know, that might be harder than it sounds, buddy. It's been a long time, but we have pictures. We can ask Grandma." Jacob pressed, determination spilling from him like light. Mark hesitated, visions of their last encounter flooding his mind. Grandma's eyes glazed, her voice heavy with secrets withheld. Would she even want to talk about Lila? If she even remembered? And then he thought of Jacob, his son's face a canvas of hope, just like that mural layered beneath the paint. "All right, we'll take the pictures to her," Mark decided, steeling himself. "But let us be ready. Okay? Some stories can sting." Jacob nodded, undeterred. "I'll hold your hand if it gets scary." Mark smiled softly. It was the lightness of such moments, his son's faith, that brought him through the darker hours. They spent another hour collecting insights and wrapping everything up carefully, with Jacob darting around to make sure they didn't miss a single name as they began to leave the room. Marks of history still clung to the air, echoing softly like a forgotten tune. Mark paused at the doorway, looking back at the mural one last time. A shiver raced down his spine, a chill of premonition. What if Grandma isn't happy to see these? He asked quietly as they made their way to the car. "Dad," Jacob's voice was steady. "We have to try. If she loves us, she'll understand." Mark took a deep breath, relief weaving through him. Jacob was right. They had to do this no matter how tough it got. But as he opened the car door, a new worry gripped him. Would this journey reveal secrets that would shake the foundation of their family? What if the truths they unearthed were darker than the shadows that pressed around them? Something still felt hidden deep within the layers of that mural. And the name Jenkins echoed in his heart like a warning. As they drove out of the driveway, Mark glanced in the rearview mirror, taking one last look at the house that held so many secrets. What awaited them could change everything. Would they find healing, or would they stand at the edge of a chasm, waiting to fall? As Mark turned the car down the winding road of Maplewood, the weight of their task felt heavier than before. The puppy squirmed playfully in Jacob's lap, blissfully unaware of the emotional storm brewing inside them. But Jacob, his eyes sparkled with determination and innocence, seemed to breathe life into the conversation. "Dad, I know this is scary," he said, "but imagine how Grandma will feel when we show her the pictures. It'll be like bringing back all those moments we've missed." Mark nodded, forcing a smile. His heart ached thinking of Grandma, her frail hands trembling as she flipped through family memories. He hoped she'd welcome the chance to dive into the past after all these years. But the thoughts of dredging up old pains, of the secrets that had separated them, filled him with doubt as they approached Grandma's house. The neighborhood felt achingly familiar. He remembered playing tag on these streets as a child, laughing with friends and feeling invincible. But now, the memory of joy and laughter felt marred by the shadows lurking around family ties. Every inch closer to Grandma's warmed his heart and pressed down with guilt. They parked under the large oak tree that cradled Grandma's home, its branches heavy with twinkling sunshine. Jacob hopped out first, bounding excitedly toward the front door. Mark lingered, still trapped in his thoughts. "Dad, come on," Jacob called, holding the puppy tightly to his chest, its tail wagging furiously. Mark took a deep breath, forcing himself to step out, feeling as if each footfall was a step towards unknown territory. Would the reunion spark joy, or would it unravel forgotten fears? As Jacob rang the doorbell, a wave of nostalgia crashed over Mark. The door creaked open slowly, revealing Grandma's frail frame, her white hair sitting like a crown above her kind, wrinkled face. "Jacob," she exclaimed, her eyes widening. "Oh, my sweet boy." As they embraced, Jacob's innocent joy spiraled into Mark's heart like sunbeams breaking through clouds. But then Grandma's gaze shifted to Mark, a flicker of uncertainty clouding her eyes. "Hello, Mom. It's been a while," Mark managed, emotions tumbling inside him. "I thought perhaps you'd forgotten how to visit an old woman," she said, though her smile was warm. "I brought something," Jacob chirped, holding out the bundle of photographs they had gathered. The happiness on Grandma's face, as she noticed the puppy, softened the tension surrounding them. "What have you got there?" With trembling hands, Jacob presented the pictures, and Mark felt a wave of anticipation wash over him. Would Grandma be ready to confront the frailty of their family history? He watched as her eyes widened, scanning the images, one by one. She paused on a picture of a younger Mark standing alongside a girl, a sunlit day captured in laughter. "Lila Jenkins." "Grandma?" Jacob's voice interrupted the silence that descended. "Do you know her?" The air thickened, an unseen barrier drawing tighter around them. Grandma's face fell ever so slightly, a veil of sorrow mingling with recognition. "I remember her, yes." Mark stepped closer, his heart pounding. "We want to understand. Who was she to you?" "To us?" Grandma hesitated, the silence stretching thick and heavy as layers of history awaited revelation. "Lila was my sister," she finally said, her voice quivering with memories. "We were so close, but mistakes made long ago tore us apart." "What mistakes?" Jacob pressed, rooted in innocence yet piercing through the wall. Mark felt the churning in his stomach, fear merging with a desperate hope. Would Grandma open up about the dark corners they never dared to explore? She fell in love with someone that night, Grandma began, her voice barely above a whisper. "Someone we weren't supposed to be with. The pain it caused strained our family. When Lila left, I lost a part of myself. I never even knew." Mark spoke, his voice breaking. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" Tears glistened in Grandma's eyes, but they didn't wait for her response. They understood. History silenced their voices, generations tangled. "In secrets. We can't let it keep us apart," Jacob exclaimed, his little hand gripping Mark's tightly. "Let us rekindle those bonds," Mark urged, understanding blooming within him. "You are a part of our story, Grandma. Just like this family is still ours to rebuild." Grandma stood tall, the shadows of her past relinquished a bit to the warmth of hope ignited by her grandson. "It's time to heal, sentí it?" she asked with newfound strength. In that moment, bathed in the sun spilling through the door, Mark felt the weight of years lift. They could unearth the past together, but only if they faced the pain collectively. Jacob stirred, happy barks erupting from the puppy, breaking the tension again. Mark wrapped his arm around him, holding his family close. "We'll be brave and honest," he vowed, conviction swelling. As the sun dipped lower, casting golden hues over the reunion, they stood solid, ready to face their saga head-on, a family reshaping their destination filled with compassion, forgiveness, and love. And in that instant, a beautiful mural began to take form anew. Now, to all of you witnessing this captivating transformation, this monumental journey of healing and connection, I ask, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and share this inspiration with the world. Comment your reactions and feelings about this heartfelt ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.